But now let's start with the coDiagnostiX. The last time we went to the basic function through zooms and making the basic workflows. Today I want to show you a little bit in the background. So in the starting page, you have some functions you don't find somewhere else. So, and one is, and I get this question really often, how can I delete patients? And this is in the starting page. Only here you can delete patient, and you click on the patient with the left mouse button here. You can open it and you see the delete button. And only if you go here, an additional window open, and you can delete your patients or delete your data sets. Remember, patient is everything what you have on the patients. This can have different data sets. If you only have click on the delete data set, you can select, for example, if you made 3 DICOM imports and only want to use one, then you can delete the other one. So it's possible only in the starting window. In the starting window, you have here on the right side the management button. The management button is opening some background functions. I click on it. It opens on a different screen here. I make a full screen and you have a lot of possibilities here. I want not to explain everything, but some important functions. I see something in the chat window. It's okay. So maybe just to the beginning, if you don't have a microphone, you can write something in the chat window. So I will have a look from time to time in this to see it. But if you have something, please interrupt me if I'm too fast, or if you cannot hear me, if you don't see the screen, just interrupt me. The background management starts with change database, and it's a nice thing. You can use different databases and you can change the database to different paths on your network. So maybe if you're working from several computers, you can make a database on your server, and from every computer you have access to the central database, and you certainly can make a database on your local computer to work local. The next button is for archive and restoring. This is something I highly recommend that you do this from time to time and archive your patients, because remember, we are working on a computer. This can break down, and if you don't make an archive and safety copy, all of your data are lost. If you're working on a server which is saved every night, this is not a problem. Then you can browse through the implant. You can design implant. This is not so important for everything. This is for the support. Here, for example, we have the team viewer. If you calling the support, it's already included in coDiagnostiX. And on the bottom, you have the possibility to switch between the languages. We have, I think in the moment we are just over 10 languages. So today I'm working in English. You have to go on apply, and then you can work in the language. So that's the basics. So let's go to Mary Smith. This was a patient I worked on last week in the part 1, but now I would like to explain you some deeper functions in the data set. You see, well, let's wait a little bit. I see it's a little bit slower. You see the data set here on the computer. Everything is ready, what we made, already one implant planned. The guide is designed, and normally you can export. But there are some nice features which I did not explain in the basic course one. This is for today. So let's go to the top line. Maybe some features I already explained, but it's not too bad. If you go on the question mark, you see we have the integrated training, but you have some information. The introduction, which explains you some basics about the software. Here we have the PDF for informations about CBCTs and CT scans. This is really nice if you're starting and give it to your radiology. The instruction for use is an easy information with a step-by-step. You see the end-user license agreement if you want to see everything. We have some hotkeys where you can use the keyboard instead of the mouse. So let's show some of these features. Here you'd see something I already explained, the zoom with the shift button and the scrolling wheel of the mouse, and undo with the Control Z button, and you can scroll down here. In this window we have a lot of keys. If you like working with keys, you find everything here. And let's go on. Then we have the license management, important if you want to see how long your dongle is valid or how many guide fees you have on your dongle. Then we have the connection to the Dental Wing Online, for example, to our training videos, and the About window where you can see your license number and the phone number from the support. The next is going on the extras. So we have the image management. You can make screenshots with the F8 button from the complete window. But if you have a closer look to the top gray bar on every picture, you see a small camera. So you can make a single screenshot of every view you have, maybe for your homepage, for the doctor to send it by email, or maybe for the patient if he's interested in his case. So that's here. You can set up and, for example, say, I want to store it on a special folder. I want to store everything anonymized. For example, important if you make it for a publication, the file format, PNG, JPEG, bitmap, whatever you want, and certainly the folder where you want to do this. Let's go on extras. Then we have the direct access to the sleeve editor where you can design your own sleeve, the implant designer, and we go to the settings. This is something I recommend to use more often. Just in the beginning, I want to show it to you. This is a separate window where you can do a very lot in the background. And for example, if you see, I have my orientation marker here. This is the face, but if you click on it, you can change it. Especially now around Christmas, a lot of people change it to Rudy. So you have the deer really with a red nose. You have a closer look. Yes, this is made for this. It's certainly not necessary, but it's a little bit fun in the background. So I change it back to the face. And okay. We go to extra setting because there are a lot of other functions here. So one what I am show is this confirmation here in front. Adjust object outline with the zoom level. So this is really nice for screenshots or what I do today for presentation. This means all the lines displayed here are a lot bigger than when you don't activate it. I show you the difference. If I unselect it, go on OK, you see the lines are much smaller, thinner, and you have to decide what you like. There is no good or no bad. This is just depending from your preferences. So I activate this again. Then you can change the color of measurement lines from auxiliary lines, everything what we have here. And what I just did in the beginning, every time I make the size of measuring and annotation on the maximum, which is 14. I think when you get it, it's somewhere on 9. For me, it's really small, so I make it bigger, and it's really helpful on screenshots because it's better to read. let's go here. This is not so important, but here you see the distance between the cross-sectional. It's for default on 1 millimeter, and you see it on the cross-sectional on the top. You see plus minus 1 millimeter. You can change it if you like, but don't make it too big. If you have, for example, a 2.9 millimeter implant, then you will see nothing from the implant in the right and left picture. So 1 millimeter is a good thing to see. So this is the views. We go to the next rider. This is the safety distance. The safety distances for the warnings are on the default 3 millimeter from implant to implant and 2 millimeter from implant to nerve. So, but you can modify it. So, for example, if you say I'm working with the Straumann BLX, where the drill is 0.4 millimeter deeper than the implant tip, so you can say, okay, I want to have a 2.4 millimeter safety distance. This is something we leave to you. If you deactivate it here in front, you will have only a yellow picture on the bottom and you will not receive a warning, something I do not recommend. The next rider is implant. You can modify how your implant is displayed. If you have it from default, you see the 2D picture of the implant is dark blue. This is for some people not so good to see. So if you want to change it, we can go here on the color, open the window, we have our default, and you can change the color of the implant to the color of your choice. So I make it to the basic and show you how it looks like. It's a really bright blue. If you like it, leave it. But if you want to change it, go to settings, implants, and change the color. I take this cyan color. It's okay. You can change the length of the three-dimensional implant axis. You see it here in the picture. You can make it longer. You can make it thicker or thinner, whatever you want. You can make the implant visible three-dimensional in 2D, but this is something I do not recommend because this is annoying in the display and sometimes you get wrong information. So I don't like this, but it's possible maybe for some, especially publications, it makes sense to make a three-dimensional implant visible in 2D. The next is the guide design, where you can select if you want to have the rotation markers always on the guide. I have it activated on always because I would like to have this as a default. But if you don't like it, you can switch it off, never, last setting, whatever you want. I have it on always. And here we have the calibration setting. This is for the matrix of the drill sleeves, where you can switch between the different sleeves. If you want to print it, there's a standard and a special for DLP 3D printers. If you want to switch it, standard is, for example, the other 3D printers from other companies, but DLP is something if you work with the Straumann Rapid Shape, for example. So the next is a little bit deeper in the software. I make just a short explanation. We have the possibility with red cyan glasses to see every 3D picture three-dimensional, but you already can switch it to 3D screens if you have one, and can switch between the different things. If you really need it and like it, please contact us separately because this is a little bit different. Here I already explained the screenshot functions. We have the different printouts. Here it's interesting if you already print a lot and give it to different doctors in a lab. Maybe it's interesting for you to have your company logo on the printouts. So if you go here, you can add your logo from a folder, insert it, and then your logo is, let's have it I have to do it in a separate folder. Here I open it. Sorry, we have a default dental lab printer. And if you have activated this logo of you is in every printout. I recommend this to every lab or even to every surgeon. If you give away some printouts, everyone can see where it's coming from. So this is okay. And let's go on with the settings. We are here on the different things here. Here you can decide if you measure something, how many decimal places after the comma is displayed. I have it only on one. To be honest, it makes no sense to have a measurement with 4-digit on the right side, because this you cannot measure in this accuracy. On the bottom we have something. If you don't have a new or a good computer, if we are working with a mesh editor, it uses hardware rendering. If you don't want it, keep it off. If you activate it, this is only recommended if you have a high performance computer. I don't have it in a moment, so I keep it unselected. Okay, background function, we go to the view. In the view, you can switch on and off everything what you see. For example, the orientation marker, but it makes no sense to activate it. It's really important that you, for example, in the axial view, see right patient side is on the left picture side, the surgical view. And it's really helpful if you see it, like the lingual here and everything. So please don't switch it off. But here you can, for example, switch on and of different side. The horizontal and vertical 3D cut, we used it really often in the past, but it's not very necessary, only for pictures, for different things. The objects I explain later. Here you can display implants and abutments. Here the next is you can hide the sidebar if you want to screenshot and don't want to show the left side. You saw on the keyboard, if I press the F11, it's back again. Go on. And here what we have, reset views. Everything what you see on the top is hidden here. Here we have an important button. So adjust grayscale. This is something, if you import the DICOM data and see and say, oh, it's not the same quality like on my cone beam. For example, I show you how it could look like if you go like this, you have a really bright view, or if you go to the other direction, have a really dark view. This means that the information, the light blue curve, is not between the sliders. And this is important. So if you modify this, you should go through the data set and see where the blue curve is moving. So I see here some information outside, so I have to make it a little bit wider. And then you can go on OK. And the DICOM data is important, new, and you have a better contrast. This is recommended normally if you work with the same cone beam every time, only one time. But if you, especially in labs, get data from different devices, this may be important for you to know. I go on cancel because this looks really good. 3D setup, it's the same what I already explained in the basic one. On the right edge of every 3D picture, you have this small wheel, 3D setup. And let's go down. Density measurement. This is a little bit in the background because this does only work if you are working with a CT. Only CTs are calibrated on Hounsfield density, so don't use this in cone beams. Let's go to the next. Here we have object, add object. This I will explain because these functions are somewhere else. Delete. Everything what you have on the left side can be deleted with this function, but also deleted with the dustbin here. So we can edit a command to the data set. If you want to write a command somewhere, you can do this. positioning mode, GONIX registration. This is a function will be switched off within the next year for the really, really old users using coDiagnostiX longer than 10 years know that there was a drilling table. Then we have the possibility to go all what we made before, panoramic curve, segmentation, surgical guide. This is not important. I already explained it in the basic one. But now we go to plan. This is a really nice and important function to know. So in the moment I have one plan, it's called Mandible. So if you go on plan, you can go to the properties. We have an additional window where you can change the name, can switch between maxillar and mandible, can protect the plan against changes, or mark it as final. But if you make a plan as final, you cannot unselect it. So it's fixed and you cannot make changes. So this is important. So if you go to plan the next to the plan management, you see all of your plans. And this means you can make several plans. You can make a new plan. This is recommended if you have a data set with maxilla and mandible in the same DICOM data. Then you make one plan for the mandible and one for the maxillar. Why is this important? Because you save one guide fee. You can unlock the data set and make a mandible plan export and guide and a maxillar plan export and guide, and you only have to unlock the data set one time. But if you make two DICOM imports, it's a separate data set, and then you have to unlock each data set, means one guide fee more. So if you have both JAWS in the same data set, just work here in the plan management. And you can work in a copy. So I just switch here and go on a copy, and you see everything what you made in the plan number one, you can select or unselect. So you can make different modifications. And why should you do it? For example, we can make a parallelization of implants. But if you make a parallelization, you cannot undo it. So if you say, I want to see the result, but I want to keep my former plan, then please make a plan. For example, give it a new name. A new name means not the same. Here it's red because it's a name already given. And for example, I say parallel or whatever, and then you can make a copy of the plan. Now our plan is copied. This is a little bit of calculation time. And now you see mandible parallel and mandible, both plans. And you can rework this plan. For example, I just make a small change. I make a longer implant. And now if we go on plan properties or plan management, this is the same, for example, to go here, plan management. Now we have the two plans, and there's a nice feature. If you go with the shift button on both plans, you can compare them. And if you go on compare, you see, I changed the bone level tapered to the 12 millimeter implant. So you can see what is changed. And everything what you see here, for example, is listed. If you receive a plan by case exchange and send it back, you will see every single status of the plan displayed here, and with the time and date, so you can see everything. So this is working in a plan copy. You can make as many copies as you like. And if the data set is unlocked, it's a data set. You don't have to pay any guide for additional plans. So it's here. So new and create copies. This is the same what you see in the management. The next button here in plan is log implants. Log implants is, in my opinion, a really important function, especially if you work as a lab, for example, with a team viewer together with a surgeon. If the surgeon confirms the position of the implant, you should lock the implant. I show it here. I go on the button, and then you see a locker on the right side of the implant. And the implant cannot be moved now. But what can you do? You can modify the sleeve, you can modify the guide. Everything is possible. So no problem here. But if you want to change something again, it's not locked forever. You just can go here and unselect it. If you use this really often, this is one of the hidden features on the top bar. Right mouse button, adjust. You can go on the search where we have lock implants here, move it on your top bar, and then you can use it just here with one click. I recommend it really high because you can compare plans and see if something has changed. So one nice feature, you see, I made a copy and I changed the length of the implant. Do you see the warnings? Left nerve here. This is a distance. And you see the surgical guide. These are different warning. One, I made a longer implant, so now it's close to the nerve. You see, it's really touching the nerve. And the guide is not valid. If you change something in the plan, you cannot export the guide anymore. So if you say, okay, this is not a problem, there's a reason to go this, you don't have to make a new guide design. You just go on your surgical guide, double click, your guide designer opened, and you just click next, 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 next. And then your guide is new calculated. You don't have to make the bubbles. You don't have to make the windows or the name on the guide. This is not necessary. I don't do it here. It lasts too long for this basic training, but it's not additional work. You just have to recalculate your guide. Let's go back here. Lock implant, finalize. We already saw it in the plan management. Send is the same. What we have here is send plan by case exchange. Print is the printer, what we have on the right side here on the workflow. And then we have two special functions. If you have the surgical motor from iGiro Pro, they are working with an iPad and you can scan the surgical protocol and everything is imported immediately. This is in the background only for users of the iGiro Pro. If you want to print it and have the Straumann rapid shape, here is the transfer rapid shape. So the printing data are already prepared for the rapid shape. So with the connectors, and it's the perfect fit for the NetFab software of the rapid shape. If you have a Straumann eShop access, you can open it directly from coDiagnostiX, and you see and can order the sleeves, the implants, everything, every material you have planned from Straumann here inside. If not, you can ignore it. The next is check lock state for production. This just shows you an open or closed locker if the guide fee is paid or not. You can move it as an additional button on the top gray bar if you like it. The virtual planning export is a different training to export implant position to different CAD/CAM programs or prepare data sets and segmentation for 3D printing. This is possible here. If you're working with the Straumann CAD/CAM Cares or DEVOS software, you can make the synergy connection, which is a live connection between the CAD/CAM. Really, really helpful if you have it. And the others here getting new. We have the AI coming within the next year in all over the world. In the moment, we are just starting in Europe, so I will not explain it today. And the treatment evaluation, nothing for today. This is something for universities, not here. Let's go to the patient button, the next, because we are here already. Yes. And we have the possibility to make a new patient. This is just starting the DICOM import. Open the database to look for other. We can close it. Then we can make anonymization. So if you click on this, let's show it. The patient name, date of birth, everything disappears for screenshots, but be aware, if you have the patient name in 3D scans, this is not disappearing because the software does not know what's the name and what's not, and you can unselect this. In the beginning, I explained in the management window to make an archive of the complete data set. This means archiving stores everything, even different data sets from the patient. Here we have import export only of a single plan. This is the smallest data possibility, maybe for transfer on a USB stick. If you want to import it on your laptop or something, then you can export the planning and you have just the plan we have open, but not the other plan. So it's only the para, not the mandible plan. This is something you have to know. And the same, if you have this exported, you can import, go to the USB stick or wherever you have it stored, and you can import it again. And here we have additional functions for the advanced training, for if you have a SQL data set, if you are a reference lab, there are different things here. So now let's go on the left side. We have some functions here, which I did not explain in the basic one. So one thing is we have a lot of context menus. The context menus are really often opened if you go over something with the right mouse button. So here you see, I'm saved the implant. It's locked, so I unlock it. So go on the implant with the right mouse button and you see the implant properties. You can delete the implant. You can make the fine positioning for implants. This is the, let's wait a little bit. No, it's not here. Here, the fine alignment is the additional window if you want to move the implant in the implant-oriented system for short steps or in a different direction or for a special angulation. Right mouse button on the implant. Here we have certainly the parallelization. I have only one implant here, so it's not working. You can measure angle between implants if you need. You can edit or add abutments, but there is a better way to do this. The fine alignment is already activated. I deactivate it. And the right mouse button here, we can make the implant appearance where you see 3D models in the 2D, and we can display the tooth position numbers on the implant. So you see the 3-6. And if you switch on the American system, you will see the American number here. Everything can be activated. Right mouse button, implant appearance, tooth numbers. So this is the right mouse button here. So this is an important way. But if you want to change something on the implant, we have the same here on the bottom. If it's closed, open it, and you have your implant. Can change length and diameter. But if you want to change the implant type, you don't have to delete it and make a new plan. You can go on the double arrow here, change implant, and go on other implants here. This means your new implant is placed in the same angulation and on the same crest level like your former plant, and you just have to change the type. You can even change between different brands if you like. So this is the double arrow here if it's not only the length and diameter you want to change. I make it shorter because I don't have the warnings here. Don't like it. The next is you can plan the abutment here. Some special brands have a lot of original abutments here. Here, especially for the Straumann, you can all choose what you want to implement. This is really, really nice made. Even for Synergy, if you work with the Devos, you can scroll down and see what we have here. And perfect. Or you can design, if you have an implant brand which is not in our database, then you can design a user-defined implant database and abutment, but I don't show this here. This is too much in the moment. So, and we have certainly the sleeves here on the bottom and something really nice. Here we have a wax up. Let's switch off the surgical guide and the wax up. But for this easy case, we have the edit teeth function. This is here, and you can find it on the right side of the plus here. So I would like to show it to you how this is working. Just a fast wax up for the orientation. You get this window, and we can just modify it. You see 3 possible functions. Jello means left, right, up, down. If you do this in the 3D picture, be really careful. You can only move this wax up teeth in the highlighted direction. So this is in the front, this is up, down, and here it's left, right. So I recommend to make the basic positioning here in the 2D picture. The green button is changing the size of the teeth. Make it smaller, maybe a little bit here. And the blue button is for the angulation. So this is just for easy. You cannot export this. This is important. So it's just for orientation. And let's have a look from the top. I'm not a dental technician, so maybe it's not so good, but I think for orientation it's okay. There's a hole in the center, but this does not mean that you have to place the implant axis on this position. And now you see the teeth. Let's have a look. I switch off this. I switch off the implant up, accept the teeth. And now I want to see if the wax up, you see the wax up is not far away from my teeth, so it looks really nice. And for a single, maybe 2 teeth you can work. Please don't try this in edentulous cases. This is not how it's working. So this is the overview here. So now let's go down in this drop-down menu. Here on the left side, we can add different functions. So the first is for grouping. In the past, it's not important. It will be more important when we explain the AI, but I skip it today. Here we can modify the implant, nothing necessary. Here we have the tools. I already showed it a minute before, but now we can go down what we have here. We can import model scan. This is the same what we have in the workflow. These 2 bubbles, just match it together. Then we have a prosthetic design. This is coming from CARES. This is okay. And we have a 3D model. 3D model means you can import something which is not matched to the data set. You can move it free. For example, if you have a bone block you want to place, or an instrument you want to show, or whatever. I don't know everything what's possible there, but this is not like a model scan where you have to choose at minimum 3 regions. It's just imported and you can move it freehand. A protected 3D model will be more important in future. This is just in testing. The same like AI model. Augmentation, this is a tool to be developed. In the moment, you're only able to close alveol, and there are better functions with the mesh editor. This will be an advanced training. We can modify and add a left and a right nerve canal. This is important if you, for example, want to add nerve canals in the maxilla. So why should you do this in the maxilla? Maybe you want to show the foramen in front, or you work with the new Sigoma implants, which go beside on the eye to make the facial nerve visible. So you can add left and right nerve canal here, can rename it, and you can use it as a third or a second or fourth nerve canal in the mandible or as a nerve canal in the maxilla. Then we have the measurement: distance, continuous distance, angle, auxiliary line. These are 4 functions here. So if you really want to use it, I recommend go on the top bar, right mouse button, adjust, go to the measurement button here, drag and drop, move it on the top, and then you have the same measurement here, much more comfortable here. Measurement means you make a starting point, you make an end point, and it's here on the left side. It's a so-called active measurement. As long as you are here on the measurement and it's blue, and the activation button here has a blue frame. This is important. You can only modify something on the left side if the modify button here is activated. Then you can go and modify your measurement and move it wherever you want. And if you want to make a new one, just click here and start a new one. This is much more comfortable than going over the plus here. Okay, the same certainly what we have is angulation. You can measure angulation, getting a starting point, first axis, and now the next click allows you to measure angulations, for example, for abutments or whatever you want. The auxiliary lines are sometimes helpful if you want to make the implant axis longer or the crest level longer, then you can do this. And continuous distance, this is something for measuring bridges. You can make the single measurements. You see the single measurements here and the complete distance on the right side. And I recommend, if you make a lot of measurements, go on the measurement with the right mouse button, rename it, give it a name, whatever you want. And if you have it, here you see bridge and the measurement, and then you know what you have done. If you have a lot, it's really important that you do this. Let's go further here. We are here on the auxiliary line, the measurements are ready. Then we have the annotations. You can make annotations in the data set. If you activate it, you get a plus on the right side of your cursor. You can click on it. Then we have this additional window, and you can write down whatever you want. And this is displayed here. Remember, this is Jello now, and it's the biggest size. If you don't want to have it in Jello, you want to have another color, extras, settings, and here we have the color of the annotations. You can make something else. I make it, well, let's do orange. Okay. And now it's turning in orange. This is just if you want to have a different color, which is better for you. And the size of the information and the letters, it's the same. Extras, settings. I show it how it looks if you have the smallest. Not very comfortable. For me, it's too small. I cannot read it. So I use the maximum. This is why we have it here. And I go on the 14. This is, for me, really comfortable. Let's go on. Annotations. And then we have the different functions. The cut profile, which is for the advanced course to make a bone reduction guide. And certainly the surgical guides. This is the same button what we have here on the top to do this guide design here. Okay, so I have to, there's someone, I make them a little bit quiet. I have it in my headset if there's someone talking in the other side. So let's go here. I think I'm done with most of the functions. Here we are on the surgical guide, everything on the left side. We have to activate everything here. Display object, this is the information, because here I'm on information. If you go, for example, on the implant and let it see here, you see what kind of implant you had. So you can design a lot of things here. I think we are